Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sommers, and I'm running for school board. And unlike my four other candidates, I couldn't get one of my children or my grandmother to come with me, so we get Lily tonight. But a little about my family and a little why I'm doing this is my family. And my family, I've got four children and a beautiful wife. My children, one of them has graduated from Mars in 2012, was on the WPA championship team, and now has a wonderful job in downtown Pittsburgh. I also have three current students, a ninth grader, an eighth grader, and a fifth grader. We've been back in Mars about 9 years now, and that's after we lived in San Diego for 15 years. Where I grew up, I actually grew up in Butler County, up in Slippery Rock. I went to Gannon University, got an accounting degree, and worked for a Big 8 accounting firm before I moved out to San Diego, California. In San Diego, I worked for several NASDAQ corporations, and those corporations had a lot of financial statement presentation, budgeting, and debt financing. And those are areas that I think we should really need to focus on here at the school district. Kind of what got me interested in the school board goes back a couple years when the gas and oil situation came up. And I think without having any input or feeling as to which way was the right way, what I saw was a lot of time spent, a lot of community anger spent, and a lot of money spent. And at the end of the day, after months of that, all that happened was we didn't realize until then we didn't really own the gas and oil rights, or there was questions about it. And I kind of thought that was strange, and it kind of got me to focus a little bit on the board. But after that, I started going to school board meetings, and I think from a financial background, kind of what I saw was at the end of the day, although it's all about the children and taking care of them, this really is a almost $50 million corporation, and it really needs to be run as such. And so I think what I bring to the table is a background to help that happen. Each corporation has shareholders. Those shareholders are our community members. They're the voting shareholders. And the real shareholders, or the real reason for this corporation, is to benefit the children. It's not to make a profit, but it's to benefit the children. And so I'm kind of looking at this and my work with the school board as, helping a corporation become a better financial corporation. One of the, I come up with 5 tenets that we're going to focus on the first 6 months, if we're lucky to get in, is we need to make good business decisions all the time. And those business decisions are looking at contracts, getting good contracts, and making fair contracts. But at the end of the day, we need to do what's best for us and not our vendors. The second issue I think that we need to look at is, you can't go and add debt or have asset purchases without there being a good strategic plan. That's just a plain business language, that you got to have a strategic plan when you go out and buy assets. And an example of why I think that's so important is the Mars Home for Youth property. We literally went out and spent $2.2 million without any strategic plan. There's no written plan. There's not a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, or a 10-year plan. And that just doesn't make sense to me. And with that, if it's debt financing, the interest on that's about $80,000 a year. So on top of the $2.2 million, you have $80,000 spent every year on interest financing. And the bonds last more than 20 years. So you take a $2.2 million purchase and make it over a $4 million purchase. The next issue is budgeting. I have a very strong budgeting background, and that's because corporations have very strong budgeting requirements. The typical budgeting requirements for any good corporation is a rolling 3 to 5 year budget. Now, I'm not saying the 5th year budget is going to come out as you think it is 5 years from now, but you've got to have a rolling budget so that when you're making changes in year 1, you see how it affects you in years 2, 3, and 4. And currently the current budgeting plan, it takes them almost till the end of May to finish a 1-year budget. For the new financial year starts in July, and there is no second year, and that's got to change. The fourth issue is transparency. I think the board really needs to be more transparent. I think the 5 of us are adamant that we want to get it videotaped so that when people miss a school board meeting, they can go online and look at it. The other transparency issue is related party transactions. The district has significant related party transactions, and these vendors are done without a bidding process. And that needs to stop. If you want to, I'm not a big fan of related parties, but if you're going to have them, have a much better and stronger policy than we have, and bid them out publicly. The prime example of that is the ITPS contract. In January of 18, the board spent no time just putting them in and signing them for a contract. They paid them 5 months in advance, and on a contract that was just very detrimental to the school board. As we all know, the ITPS went bankrupt in December, and after some financial documents were declared in December, we saw that ITPS was in financial distress in January when we paid them 5 months in advance. They were in financial distress in April when they needed an advance payment that wasn't due until July. Also in that document, in July, they struggled to make payroll. So we hired a related party company that couldn't make it 1 year in business. And this is when the board had said they were extra careful. So we're not going to let that happen in the future, and we would push for a much stronger related party transaction. The final issue is the school board debt. There's been a lot of talk about the debt. And the easiest way to look at that is, what is your debt to revenue ratio? How high is that? Well, the answer is Mars has the highest in the county. In addition, if you look at Pine, Hampton, and Shaler, our debt to revenue is the highest of all of those. We need to get our debt in control and lower our annual debt service payments. That's a big piece of the budget, and it's a big piece why we have some financial issues. So if we are lucky to pull through here and get the 5 of us in, those will be our 5 things we'll look at very quickly. If we can get those under control, I think the students of the community and the shareholders of the community will make this corporation a much better place to live and work. So thank you for your time, and appreciate your vote.